Hello there, I am Rainna, and I welcome you back to Reflect with me. This is a journal-style microcast where I reflect on faith, family, and everything in between. I will talk about things that may just be unique to me or entirely relatable. You can join in on the discussion by emailing the show at reflectingwithrainna@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Rainna Reflects on Twitter. You can find my show notes and everything else with the show at reflectingwithrainna.com. Today is January 24th, 2021, and I have picked a title for it already while I was writing everything out, and it is called When Expectations and Emotions Pee on Your Parade. Let's get started. Okay, so like I said, in this entry, we will be covering expectations and emotions and how they pee on our parade. And that is because whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, that's not what we're focusing on here. What we're going to be focusing on is the fact that so often, instead of controlling us, we try to control everything outside of us, when we need to be focusing on our behavior and our investments and not others' behavior and other investments. Because if we stop focusing on how everybody else is acting, then that's how we control how we feel. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be covering. It's an easy concept once you really start monitoring your own thoughts and behavior instead of just constantly focusing on the outside of you and then reacting. So I have actually found this, especially as a Christian, that we should, it can be very dangerous being emotionally vested in something, because as a Christian, it's more of a no-no because it borders on idolatry, and that obviously depends on the amount of what we're putting our investment, the amount of our investment and what we're investing in. And I find that when we put ourselves and we put our identity into our latest fandom, we tend to end up leaving God at the door if we're not balanced. So we are indeed showing where all of our time, our attention, and our value is placed, and it is no longer Christ we are following, but something made of the world, for the world, by the world, for the flesh, which is all Satan can actually give you. He cannot promise you anything outside of this world. Like even in the Bible, when he was trying to trick Jesus, he's like, I can make you king. I can make you amazing. He couldn't promise Jesus anything outside of this world, like our Heavenly Father. Our Heavenly Father has a kingdom for us out of this world, and this is His kingdom. This decaying world that He has diseased upon diseased. That's all He can offer you is this fleeting stuff. It's just. He can offer you nothing of lasting value. So the junk of this world, and that is honestly what he tricks our flesh into thinking is, oh, you need this. You need the latest iPhone. You need the latest FOMO gadget. You need to be watching the latest episode of the latest TV show. You need to be playing the latest game. Oh, ever like 20 people on your mutuals list on social media, they're all playing this game, so you need to play that. Or they're all thinking this way, so you need to tweet out that you also think this way. It's a big follow parade, okay? And it's okay. It's okay to want to feel like you belong. We're very communal people by nature. We love being around other people, and we need to be around other people, but we also need to be monitoring where we're putting our emotions, where we're investing ourselves emotionally, where we are investing our time and our attention, because all of these things directly affect how we feel and how we feel on the greater scheme of being a Christian, like that junk in, junk out stuff. So when we find ourselves putting our identity, like I said, into our latest fandom, we can leave God at the door. And It's so easy. It's a slippery slope. This junk of the world. Our attention is currency, and we need to ask ourselves every day, what are we spending our currency on? What are we spending our time and attention on? What is sapping our emotions? That's, in our happiness. So I found a great quote about idolatry on BibleReasons.com, and it says, anything that takes the place of God in your life is idolatry. Christ reigns over all, and until you realize that, you will be running around searching for things that will never complete you. And that's so true. I feel like that's most of, the flesh side of our human existence, is running around trying to stick things in that God-shaped hole in our heart. And I used to be one of those people. And it's easy to slide back into our old ways, even after you've conquered it. And, currently, it may feel like we are actually living in very turbulent times. We are floating in very turbulent waters. The political and civil unrest that's going on in our world can weigh a person down. The politicians in our world and our nation have been turning up the temperature, in my opinion. I have seen Christians and non-Christians alike placing their hope and faith more into other broken, flawed humans that are just in a leadership role. Why? Why are we putting all of our expectations and all of our happiness eggs in that other human basket? And politicians, no offense if you are one, tend to run on the narcissism spectrum pretty high. So, come on, yikes. I have not seen many trusting in our Heavenly Father. We are putting more faith in a politician than we do in our Father in heaven, and that's scary. And our flesh is incredibly tribal, and Satan honestly knows this, and he uses it to his advantage. I've already talked about the conquer and divide. It's such a cliche, but it's so true. He uses our tribal nature, our need and feeling to want to belong to something bigger and greater than ourselves. He uses that to divide us. And we're so stupid and easy to manipulate because we are so emotional, and we need to get a grip on our emotions. Because being tribal, it means also being easily ran by our emotions, which means we are very easy to manipulate. So have you ever, now this is just to kind of check us, because I can imagine pretty much everybody, and I hate broad brushing, but as a human and witnessing many other humans, I think we can all agree that we have at one point or another felt very emotional over something. So have you ever felt extreme sorrow or anger or frustration when you thought your sports team was going to win and it didn't? When you thought that politician you voted for was going to win and they didn't? When you thought the ending of a story or a show was going to end a certain way and it didn't? When you thought your takeout order was going to be just as you ordered it and it wasn't? And your boss is going to notice what a great job you've been doing and they didn't? Who hasn't, right? Come on. It's life. If anything, I like to have low expectations. So then when something does turn out the way it should, I'm happy instead of the reverse of that. So it actually occurs, I think, on a daily basis. But did you know that this can be easily avoided? First, lower those expectations. Place no expectations. Stop expecting an outcome, and you won't feel let down when it doesn't come to fruition. Expectations are like the cousins of lies, in my opinion. Expectations are a gamble since they are based on an outcome that hasn't even happened yet. How weird is that? We do it all the time. See how silly we humans are? We place our own outcomes on stuff, then throw temper tantrums when it doesn't go our way. How does this even make sense? I have no idea, but we do it all the time. The second thing we need to do is not put all of our emotions in our expectation basket. Because once the expectations are out And in that basket, our emotions are next because they're linked. They're BFFs, okay? So it's okay to want a desired outcome, but it is not okay for us to put our entire well-being, sanity, happiness in all or a nothing scenario. We need to be okay with something not working out how we wanted it to. It is not okay to expect a person, a place, or a thing to complete us. Because our Heavenly Father is the only one who can complete us. And you will waste your entire life trying to cram a square in a circle-shaped hole. And come on, don't exhaust yourself. There's a quote that I found by John Calvin that covers this scenario perfectly, in my opinion. He is quoted saying, "For what is idolatry if not this? To worship the gifts in place of the giver himself." I was like, that's amazing. That nails it right there. And also a Bible verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 8 states, "Everything is wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content." When you go around constantly trying to make yourself happy and putting that all on the outside of you and putting all these stipulations and expectations on the world outside of you, you're going to be a very exhausted, not content person. And never satisfied. You're just constantly going to be hungry. I can now tell the difference when someone is acting so thirsty. Like that's where that thirsty, word comes from. It's just like you're just never quenched. And I feel like that's how our flesh side of us is. We're living in a world and a lifestyle that's never quenched until you have God. And He is that living water that will satiate that thirst. And you don't know it until you drink it. I'm telling you. If I have learned anything since giving my life to the Lord, it is that nothing will ever fill my God-shaped hole except for God. From the days of my youth till now in my 40s, I tried to fill my aching heart with wine, boyfriends, music, clothes, nicotine, video games, movies, shopping. I never felt complete. I was always hopping to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And you feel that little bit of, this feels good. And then it goes away. It withers. It dies because it's not real. It is of this world. It is not ever going to make you happy forever. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not. I speak for someone who used to be that person. And now I speak from someone who now is on the other side of that something. Okay. So I know where you're at. I know how it can feel when you step out of that life. I know it. So, do you want to know how I know if I'm emotionally invested in something? I've come up with a plan because I never want to slide back into that again. So I check to see if I am possibly turning something into an idol by picturing my life without it. And then I gauge how I feel. I stop doing the thing and I see how I feel. And then if I feel like a piece of me is missing, I know I have become somehow reliant on it. And then I know I need to dial my involvement back. Dial it down and my involvement with God up. It's a nice, amazing balancing act, but it's necessary because once done is not always once done. It is, you have to maintain your relationship with your Heavenly Father just like you want people to maintain a relationship with you. You cannot just stick God on a shelf and expect Him. He's not that little elf on the shelf that you wave at once a year. That's not God. Okay, God is a relationship. God is your Heavenly Father. He wants to spend time with you. He doesn't want to be put on the back. He doesn't want to sit off to the side and watch you just play Marco Polo looking for Him. And He's like, hot, cold, hot, cold. No, He wants to be there with you. You don't need to go through life blindfolded searching for Him. He's right there, okay? So take the blindfold off, all right? And, I get not everything is bad for us, but it is bad for us if it becomes more important than God is to us, okay? Idols separate us from God. So the next time you find yourself angry, sad, depressed, do some emotional inventory. Have you placed an expectation on something or someone? Have you put all of your faith, hope, and happiness in another person or thing? That usually helps narrow down the field, I can honestly say, because if your emotions are directly attached to outside of you, that's where you need to start your work. And I know it definitely helps because it definitely helped me. All right, so in wrapping up this entry 8 for January 24th, 2021, I just want to remind you that you can join in on the discussion by emailing the show at reflectingwithraina@gmail.com. And you can tweet the show at Raina Reflects on Twitter, and you can find my show notes and everything else at reflectingwithraina.com. God bless, and I will see you in entry 9.